Expecto for Frodo!
This is the way.
Who enters my domain?
Call the banners. Call the banners!
You shall not pass!
Hello, friends, and welcome to the Flannel Wizard Podcast. I am Sir Ezra, the daggone Watchful, the Flannel Wizard himself. Welcome to my daggone show, man. Brand new show here for Sir Ezra the Watchful. I'm excited, guys. I am excited. This is a welcome episode where I'm going to basically break down what the show's going to be and tell you what you can expect. A little schedule, some of the content we're going to be going after here. All the different things. I don't know. People were like, look, we want Ez back, and we want him back. We want him back hard. Okay? And I said, okay, fine. The realm called me back, and I'm answering the call. Here I am. All right? Who called Ez? Somebody actually call him? I mean, I don't know, man. Yeah, they did. Everyone did. So here we are. I'm going crazy. Guys, if I look like I'm sweating, there's a video version of this podcast. It's because I am. All right, anybody who knows any of my previous productions, you'll know always likes a good sweat, except for this time, the sweat is earned. It's not just setting up the equipment. It's not just like sweating over things with my setup, my co-host, the doc, the whatever. No, it's not that. It's Ez has been outside working up a storm, okay? I've been actually up there working on my elliptical machine, just going crazy, man. It's been actually freaking awesome. And I've decided that whenever I go into a recording, I want to be in the highest daggone frequency I can be in. Okay? We're talking high. All right? Some of my old bannermen back on Bend the Knee, I ain't talking that kind of high. I'm talking like I'm talking like goosebumps high, son. I'm talking about like getting off the elliptical machine, being in the highest spirit that you can be in. I get the kettlebells out today, man. I was swinging them around. God, I was feeling good. Man. Strong again, you know. It's like Rhaegar Targaryen said, it was time to put the books down and pick up a sword, right? And so here I am picking up the sword. I had to go to the Jedi Temple. I had to meditate. Okay, I had to work on my skills. I had to get fired up, and so here I am. So every time I come to these recordings, I'm going to be fired up. I'm going to be bringing the energy if I can. I'm going to be bringing the daggone energy, dude. Don't ever question me like that again. I will be sweating. Though that's just a part of that's just what it's gonna be. All right. So if you see on the video version, you're like, dang, Ez is dripping. It is freezing cold down here, by the way, in my lair downstairs in my studio. I love it. I'm bringing the flannel back hard. Today I'm going over the origin stories of the flannel, who I am, the whole 9 yards, and that's more for me. That's therapy for me. That's my journey. That's my story. I'm gonna tell you guys all about it. But before I do that, I'm just gonna tell you what the show's about. Okay? Because some of you are just like, okay. The heck am I supposed to expect from this dude? Why is he obsessed with flannel? What's the big deal? And I'll tell you all that if you want to know. That's the second half of the show. So here we go. What can you expect? For years, Ez has podcasted. I've been podcasting. I've been doing the podcast, and I loved it, man. Since 2015, that's a part of my story. So I'll say that, and I was like, should I bring a show back? Should I actually do a show? You know, should I actually get into it and cover the topics that I want to cover and just have fun? And I was like, I don't know, I've been hesitant for years to do it. I've been sort of like, I don't know, it's going to take some energy. I'm going to have to, really get after it. It ain't going to take no daggone energy. It's fun. I enjoy doing it. I find myself like elaborating to my wife about all these different things from these different shows. And it's sort of like, turn the mic on, bro. Turn the daggone mic on and get back after it. Just fall in love again with the thing that you've been doing for years, and just relax and just go after it. So that's what I'm doing. This is a sugar SM58, by the way. There will be links in the description in case you want any podcasting equipment. Let's do affiliate links now. Yes, every once in a while I'll be dropping an affiliate link. I got sponsors for the show. We're going big, baby. We're going freaking big. But I will tell you, I almost started this show without a Shure SM58, and let me pull it up over here. I about kicked myself. I put this microphone in, which is a great microphone. One of my buddies recommended this, and I do like it. But I listened to it. I was monitoring it, and I was like, what sounds like garbage? It sounds like garbage. The universe was calling to me, and it said, go find, pull out, get. I had these totes full of podcasting equipment. I will get a picture one day, guys. It's insane. If I did a yard sale, it would just be on podcasting equipment, video equipment, stuff that we've tried to do for live streams, different things, different versions of whatever. And holy smokes, man. I found this Shure SM58 at the absolute bottom of a tote. At the bottom of totes, if that makes sense. And thank God I did. As soon as I switched it, I was like, oh God, that is the crystal clear. This is actually the type of microphone that won me my soulmate. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say that. This is real. I started my whole podcasting journey on the Shure SM58. That's it. That's all you need, baby. And I went on to a show. This will be part of my story later on, where I literally recommended that they get the Shure SM58s. They got them. Swish and Flick got them. I was on their show, guesting. And let me tell you what, the voice sounds good on this microphone. So some people are like, oh, John's got a trash voice. Whatever. I will tell you that I just had to set the record straight here. I'm on a Shure SM58. I freaking love it. And I'm back to like my roots, if that makes sense. I'm back to like the original setup kind of, and it just feels good. Feels good. Like I said, I do these shows after I worked out, so I'm all sorts of fired up. I hope that's okay. Okay. Now, I don't even know how I got into that topic. Let me move on though. Welcome to the Flannel Wizard, right? This is what you're going to be able to expect. Week after week, man, I'm going to be covering my favorite fandoms. I have wanted to jump and dive into these conversations and go deep. I've been doing shorts on my YouTube channel. That's been fun. It's been great. It's been a good way to kind of fill my content creation itch while I was doing other things, taking care of my family, being in an international relationship, the whole 9 yards, training to defend the realm, you know what I'm saying? Getting back in shape and trying to get after it. So I've been doing that. It's been a good filler. It's been fun. And it's actually caused me to get back into Reddit, Quora, is that how you say it? Quora? I don't even know. YouTube comments and just different theories. And I have been diving deep again, man. I've been watching YouTube channels. I actually went and just was a consumer for a while. And it was great. And I loved it. And I guested on a couple of shows here and there. And I still run a couple podcasts, one with my wife and a buddy of mine. And so it's great. I love podcasting. You'll hear more about my story here in a second. So this show, what is it going to cover? Get to the point, Ez. The point is that we are going to, each week, I think I'm going to record these on Saturdays, anywhere between like 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock. So just so you kind of know when my recording times will be on the week. I think it's going to be Saturday after the family, or almost said kids. I'm looking into the future of one child. After the babies are asleep. That works after my wife and son are asleep. But once they're asleep, I'm going to come down and do some recordings and just get after it and do my show. I want to do a big show for you guys. I want to break down each and every week. I want to break down the news for my favorite fandoms. If you look at the video version, you will see that I've got Westeros over here. I've got Hogwarts over there. I've got a galaxy far, far away. And I've got Middle Earth over here in the lower left-hand corner. And man, it's fun. These are some of my favorite fandoms. I'm even expanding. Here's some news. Breaking news for Ez. I'm expanding into. I've read some Brandon Sanderson before, but with that Apple TV deal coming out and Brandon Sanderson in the Stormlight Archives, man, it is time. It is time. I've only read book one, even half of book one in the Stormlight Archives. I got teacher friends at work that are like, dude, you got to get into it. I've got Jimmy from over at Bend the Knee who's been saying for years, like, dude, you got to get into this. And I'm like, all right, fine. It is now time. I've read Mistborn. There's one other smaller series or trilogy or standalone book I read from Brandon Sanderson. I can't think of it right now, but I am going to be adding that to my list of sort of fandoms that I dive deep into. Okay. And when I dive deep, I dive into theories. I dive into these discussions. I'll speculate on the shows, all the things. It's gonna be a blast. And some people are like, "That's too much, Ez. It's too much. You can't do all these fandoms in one podcast and on one YouTube. I don't give a crap. I don't care. All right. I think my wife is she actually loves when I talk to her about this kind of stuff. But I think it's like at some point I need to talk to you guys. You know, I got to get back into it. I got to get back into these fandoms and chatting about these things. And I've just sort of decided to just let go of all of the stressors or all the excuses and the things that were going to keep me from doing it. And I'm just going to go for it, man. I'm just going to have fun recording and hopefully get some of your guys' ravens, your transmissions, your owls, whatever it might be that you want to send into the show, and I'll read for you guys on the show. We'll discuss. That'll be great. So things that we're going to be covering. We're going to be covering those fandoms. So again, that's going to be Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. We'll get into some Brandon Sanderson stuff, maybe some Wheel of Time if they ever bring that back. It's one of my favorite fandoms as well. It's really sci-fi and fantasy. My wife, her dad is a huge Trekkie, and he's just like, please get into some Star Trek. And I'm like, I don't know. I know my last name is Kirk, and so you would think Captain Kirk over here would want to dive into it. My mom was also a Trekkie. She also got me into Star Wars a little bit, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where we go with that. But I love fantasy and sci-fi, and I'm open for recommendations as well. But those are going to be my heavy hitters, though. My big fandoms where I'm going to be doing theories. I'm going to be dropping all sorts of good stuff. I'm right now working on, I'm not going to say it yet. I'm not going to say. Daggone it. You're always wanting to say something and spoil all your surprises and all the layers and all the, stop it. Just stop, okay? Save some surprises for later on. Don't do it, okay? Hold back. Anyway, what was I going to say to you guys? I can't tell you because it was a secret. All right, it has to do with the 4 fandoms. It has to do with something I'm going to be diving into later and playlists and things I'm going to be making for you guys. But I am so freaking amped to just get back into all of these fandoms. Right now, House of the Dragon is going on, Season 3. So we'll be covering that very soon. I'm doing Season 1 and Season 2 recap, which will be posted right after this. And then we're going to be diving into, I think, Rings of Power is coming up, and then Harry Potter is dropping. I'm still doing my show, Shell Cottage Radio, which is an in-depth reread with my wife. I'm actually still doing Up Talkin' Tolkien with my buddy Lane. And I've even guested on Bend the Knee, which is my old podcast with my buddy Sir Matt. So all over the place, man. And I'm bringing it all to one show here, recording every Saturday. And what we're going to do, the show's going to look like this. So we're going to be a little intro, a little welcome, a little crazy ranting from myself. If you don't like that, there are timestamps, okay? There's going to be timestamps in the show. You can just skip it. You can just say, you know what? I don't really care about this guy's life. I don't care about him, etc., blah, blah. That's fine, okay? Click on the daggone timestamp and get to the theory and get to what you want to get to. That's totally cool. But I will start with my own sort of quick counsel with myself. It'll be the counsel of Flannel with me, all right? Where in which I'm going to just, give you guys updates, say what's going on, and it's really, I think, a chance for me to cool off and towel off from the workout that I will have just done. And then we'll dive into the news. I don't want to go a week without talking about all of my favorite fandoms. And the way I used to do this was I would oh my God, let me break down a schedule for you guys. I know I was going to save some of this story for later on, but guys, I used to record Thursday night, an hour and a half away with a buddy, drive back, got home at midnight, went to sleep, got up, went to work. That Friday night, I would then go down to, I would go another hour and a half away to another buddy's house, record a podcast. I would then come back, or I would stay the night there, actually, because it would be so late. We would record for 5-6 hours. And I would then come back, and this is Friday, so it's Thursday, Friday. I would sleep Saturday. I would get up. I'd have a little bit of time for myself, and then Sunday morning, I would do another, 4 or 5 hour recording. It is no wonder I got these grays. It is no wonder that Ez was losing his mind there for a while. I just wasn't going about it the right way, and it wasn't taking care of me, and it wasn't taking care of my buddies either. So I'm happy to be, doing this and getting back after it. So all of those different fandoms, right, are coming up, and there's gonna be tons of there's news right now for Star Wars that I'm just itching to talk to you guys about. So every week I'm going to be breaking down the latest news from my favorite fandoms, okay? That might even include some stuff with DC, right? With Superman, and because I really like Superman, Batman, the Lanterns, all the things that are coming out. I'm a big fan of DC. Marvel, yeah, maybe here and there. I don't know. I don't know as much about Marvel, and I just watch the movies, and I'm really kind of a surface level fan there. So we'll see how that goes. But as for DC, I definitely will be incorporating that into the show too. So those are some of my favorite things. If you're into that kind of stuff, cool beans. If you see there's a week where it's like, man, okay, Ez is talking about House of the Dragon here for the next couple weeks at the end of my main show, that's okay. You can listen to the first half, and when you want me to talk about Star Wars, boom, click on the timestamp, and it will say Star Wars news, boom, jump to that, and I will be breaking down the Star Wars news, okay? When it's Harry Potter news, boom, click on that. Let's jump to that. We'll be talking Harry Potter news. That's my Saturday show that I'm going to record on Saturday, try to drop on every Monday, Tuesday, one or the other there on Spotify, and that'll then be pushed out to all the different platforms. So you guys will get that on Saturdays. Okay, well, I'm sorry, you'll get that on Monday. I record it on Saturdays. And then after that show drops, then coming up on Fridays, I'm going to be trying to do like every other week, I think, maybe twice a month, a live stream on my YouTube channel, which I will then, that just allows you guys on the podcast, if you want to go hang out on a Friday night from 8 to 10 or 9 to 11, one of those two time frames, we'll be discussing something. I'm going to be bringing like PDF files, presentations, Google Slides, whatever it's going to be. I've already got 4 or 5 of these ready to go, and it's going to be me breaking down a topic of my choosing. A lot of times it will not be the same thing that I covered, in the big podcast show. It's going to be a live stream where I break down something else from another fandom. Okay, it could be a character analysis, another big theory, whatever, but that's just me trying to build some community, get to know you guys, hang out, and do a live stream. So that will be on Fridays. For right now, it's going to be every other Friday until I can get kind of warmed up and see if, people want to, if they enjoy it, and if they want to keep, doing that, and for there to be, more of those, I would just kind of need to see who wants to be involved and who wants to, what you guys want really from the show. There's so much I want to talk about that's sort of why I'm going to be doing the live stream, is I want to be live. I want to have watch parties later on and chat with you guys. And I want some of my other buddies from other shows to be able to just hop on and let's do a live together. You know what I mean? I think that would be really cool. And it's fun to kind of build community that way. So that's 2 shows essentially. So you're going to have like the main show, where in which every week I break down news from all of my different fandoms. Then we'll switch gears to whatever is hot that week. If it's House of the Dragon, we're covering that. Cool, we're covering House of the Dragon. When Rings of Power is dropping, we'll be covering Rings of Power in the main portion, what I call the meat and potatoes of the show. Like that's the back half or the second half of the show, where we get into the big discussion. And then, come December, again, that will be focused on Harry Potter. But all along the way, I will be giving you week by week by week Harry Potter news, Lord of the Ring news, whatever's out there. I'm gonna be covering. We have Comic-Con going on. We have we've got stuff from Lucasfilm that just dropped, and tons of cool things to cover. And I feel like there's never a week where there isn't something going on, or there's not a comic book that's released in some one of my fandoms that's changing lore and everything, and so it'll be a lot of fun. Have I said that a lot? It's gonna be a lot of fun. I plan on it being fun, friends. This show is also brought to you by Dunkin' and Gatorade Zero. They're not sponsors yet, but just in case you were wondering, large iced decaf coffee, 4 creams, baby. That is what we're running on. Been running on that for a long time. It's definitely powered me through the decaf. It was actually cold brew once upon a time. It was actually cold brew, double the caffeination, and my eye was twitching, so I have switched to decaf, yes. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. It's going to be a show in which we break down our favorite fandoms. Every week I get to talk about something that I love for my fandoms, which is awesome. You guys can submit me questions if you want. It's just, I think I know my Gmail account is theflannelwizard@gmail.com, and you can send me a raven, a transmission, an owl, whatever you want. You can send that to me there, and I can discuss it on the show. If it's a question about something that's going on, a theory, whatever it might be, I have a segment of the show where I will do that. And if I get them, man, if you send them, if you put the effort into sending them, I will read them, okay? Because that's a big deal for me. It gives me content, and it's a way for you to get involved in the show. I just think it's fun. I love this is better when you guys participate and you want to be involved, and I that's why I want to do the live streams too. So, okay, does that make sense? So record on Saturday, drop it on Monday, Tuesday, and then live stream on Friday, every other Friday, in which I cover something. For example, I'm going to be going over, as we're doing House of the Dragon, I'm dropping that. I'll be recording my live streams. They might not post on the podcast every week. Like I might just make the feed look nice and neat by posting a lot of House of the Dragon. and then take my previous live streams that were all about Harry Potter and then post those in a chunk. So you can kind of see those and kind of skip through the live streams that you don't want. The live streams won't be covering the news. I've already done that in that week's episode. They're just specific to one topic. It's specific to a theory or a thought that I have in my mind. Yeah. Or maybe it's a book I've read. Sometimes in Star Wars, there's a lot of books that I'm reading. And so I'm always just, while it's fresh in my mind, I want to spit it out and get out there and have that conversation and be a part of the fandom in that way. So, and we'll expand. I'm also still doing shorts. We'll still kind of pull clips from the podcast. We'll also do some of our standalone, shorts where we have series that we're still trying to finish up from years ago. My God, didn't realize how many characters were in these fandoms. I've been doing How Powerful forever, but we'll eventually get through it. Okay, so that's in a nutshell sort of what the show is going to be like, I guess. I'm open to. I've been contacting a few of my friends who are into content creation and who are podcasters or YouTubers or just buddies that I've met along the way that are deep in the weeds in these fandoms. And I know these guys and gals, and I think you'll really enjoy them. And so I'll bring those individuals on the show when they want to, whenever. And I think you'll really like it. I've been very blessed over the years to have done a lot of podcasts and created a lot of communities and had a lot of listeners turn into friends and lifelong friends. I've even been in their weddings, and it's just wild. And so I can't. I'm so thankful. I'm so blessed that I've had that opportunity. So I'm hoping for more of that here, man. So if you're new and you don't know me, again, my name is Ezra. So if you heard me say at the top, Sir Ezra the Watchful, I sometimes am just assuming that I'm going to get some people from my other shows popping in and following me and whatnot. But I do go by Sir Ezra. It's stuck with me from back when I was on Bend the Knee. Which, let me transition then too and tell you my story, tell you who I am, and get into that. I just wanted you guys to know in the welcome episode what this was going to be like. It is just free form. There's really no edit. It's kind of a one-take show. There'll be some editing here and there because, who knows, man. Sometimes I spill my coffee all over myself and we got to cut that out, or well, whatever might happen. Or the wife starts, she gets the broom out and she kind of, right? I'm kidding, sweetie. I'm just joking. But anyways. So for the most part, it's a one-take show. It's just easier to do. If anybody's ever seen The Dusty Wheel over on, they cover Wheel of Time. God, I love that he just streams his show and just goes with it. It's just awesome, It just feels really organic and raw, and I don't know. I enjoy it. So that's how we're going to do this show. So let me transition. Let me tell the story. Let me dive into this. I'm going to go all the way back. Okay? So anybody who ever had wanted to know who I am, the podcast that I've done, all the different things, here you go. It's the full story. We're going to run through it. I want to do it's more for me. So you don't really need to listen to this. This is more for me. And it's just a way in which I want to it's almost therapy, guys. It's really just kind of therapy for me to talk about me. All right. And I want to do it once, and I want to put it at the front of the show in my welcome episode on this podcast. It'll be on the playlist over on YouTube. It'll be here on Spotify. It'll be the first episode where I break it all down. You get to know me. All right. So, Ezra, my name. Welcome to the show. It's me. All right. And I grew up in Central Ohio. All right. So go Bucks. Go Buckeyes, baby. OHIO. Seriously, that is, and the Bengals. Root for the Bengals. Some of you are out. Some of you are instantly out. Hey, hold on. Let me tell you. Are you doing? God dang it. I just said I'm not going to edit the show, but here I go. Like, maybe I should cut that out, man. Maybe I shouldn't tell everybody I'm a Buckeye fan. Then the Buckeye fans are like, oh, really? You're not going to stand there proudly? And no, you're right. I'm going to. Go Bucks. All right. But, grew up in Central Ohio. When I was born with a bone disease. Okay. So I was born with these bony tumors that just sort of popped up all over my body when I was growing, and it really affected my childhood, my development. I have scars all over the place, and my friends who know me, they've seen them, and they seen them, dog. They seen them scars, man. I got one. It looks like a shark bite, dude. Anyway, and I used to tell kids when I was in school, like, yeah, I was a storyteller. I like to exaggerate. I would tell kids, yeah, I got bit by a shark out there at Virginia Beach. It was actually a dolphin, but I turned it into a whole story because I love stories. Okay, so I grew up with a bone disease, and while I was on crutches in a wheelchair, I loved to shoot hoops. I would always be outside. I was devastated. I fell into these, I think, depression sometimes, and I just wasn't like other kids. You know, when you're young, you don't really think a whole lot about it. You're just like, how do I get healthy? How do I get back out there? I want to play some baseball. I want to make the all-star team. You know, I'm just itching to get back out there and do stuff. And I didn't really know what to do for long periods of time. I'd be inside, or I'd be, God, they'd even wheel me out on my concrete sort of like basketball court driveway area, and my sister would rebound for me, and I'd shoot them hoops, baby, and she'd have to go get them for me. And Mom told her, get out there and rebound for Ez, all right? So she got there and rebound for me, and my cousins would come over, and they would do the same thing, and it was good. They took care of me, and I'm very blessed. I had a wonderful childhood and stuff. But this was a part of it that it's how I got into fandoms. It's how I got into Star Wars. It's why Star Wars is my number one fandom. I fell in love with Star Wars because one day I was watching it, and I put in, I don't know, some sort of like, we had recorded it off the TV or something back in the early 90s, and I found a clip of Empire Strikes Back, and it was Luke Skywalker. He was he was hanging upside down, man. He was trapped, all right? He was out there on Hoth, and he had to summon the Force. He had to reach his hand out, and he summoned the Force, and he called to himself a lightsaber, his lightsaber, and he was able to free himself. And I was blown away by that. I was blown away then by like this Force ghost Yoda who shows up, and that was it. By the way, I never got off Hoth. The recording ended. It was at the end of like they were recording. Excuse me, recording something for like the Incredible Hulk or something. I don't remember what it was. And I was watching that, or it was like Swamp Thing or something. It was crazy. I don't know what my mom was watching. She was just recording stuff off the TV when you could do that. And so she at the end of that was some Star Wars, and there was commercials. Like the commercials would pop up, and there was this. It was wild, man. And I only saw a portion of it, and I was like, okay, what is this? I go to my mom. I start to kind of figure out what it is. And I learned that it's Star Wars, and I went from episode 5 right into episode 6, watched all of episode 6, and love it, and that's why episode 6, Return of the Jedi, is my favorite movie probably of all time. I love that movie so much, just because of the nostalgia. For me, it was like, I was in a wheelchair, I had all these different surgeries, I think, anywhere between, I was like 14 to 18 surgeries that I had growing up, and it was just like, okay, I'm stuck there, what do I do? And I let my imagination run wild. I already had a big imagination, and I got to just sit down and watch Star Wars, and they had the power of the Force. You could do anything, man. You could levitate rocks. You could fight the bad guys. It was super cool. And even Yoda had that power, and he was older, right? And I was like, dude, this is sick, man. And so I remember watching it, getting obsessed with it. I fell in love with it. And then lo and behold, was it 1999 or whatever, when Phantom Menace was coming out, and I was right there at the age just to dive into Star Wars and be ready to go. So there we go. That was that. I also couldn't read very well when I was growing up. I had a sort of a reading delay. I wouldn't say I had dyslexia or anything like that. My sister does have dyslexia, and I actually work with a lot of students who have that, or who struggle with like executive functioning skills or just remedial support and things. I'm a high school teacher, by the way. If I didn't mention that, we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, so I struggled with reading, and really it was because my parents were poor, and they were working double shifts, and nobody was really exposing me to a lot of reading. I was in the church hymnal, looking at it going, okay, that's what that word, how that word is spelled. Okay, got it. And I could hear them singing it, and I'm like, all right, got it. And I started to kind of read that way, which is kind of crazy. Anyway, I remember being behind in reading, and it was 6th grade. We had this accelerated reader program. I've told this on other podcasts, but I'm going to tell it again. The first book that I remember reading start to finish, besides just like a picture book or whatever, was The Hobbit. I read The Hobbit, and I had a librarian who basically recommended it to me, and she was just like talking about how, there was this creature called a hobbit, and there were dwarves, and they were going back to their ancient home, the Lonely Mountain, and there was a dragon guarding their treasure, and I was like, where's the book? That's what I want to do. And it's like, well, it's kind of advanced, it's kind of hard, and you can't read very well. I was like, what? Try me. I will read this book, baby. And so if I read that one book, and if I passed the test, I could pass all of my accelerated reader, I could get all my accelerated reader points for I think it was 6th grade or 7th grade. I'm pretty sure it was 6th grade. And I remember that being a big deal because Mom let me read the book on the way to church. She let me read it in the back of church, buddy. It was crazy. And but I was reading, and Mom was happy about that, and I was happy about it, and I was starting to catch up to the other kids. So yeah, that was fun. So The Hobbit, I got into that. So it was Star Wars, and then it was Lord of the Rings, and then from there I tried to read the Fellowship of the Ring and different things. Thank God the movies were coming out, and I didn't have to read those books all the way through. I watched the movies, and then later in high school and then in college, I got to then finish up, reading the series and really get into it. So that's my second fandom that I kind of got into. I was not allowed. You heard me reference church, right? I was not allowed to read the old Harry Potter books. My good friend Tiffany from Swish and Flick, who I'll bring up here later, she was allowed to read them, and she was allowed to go on the trip in middle school to the theater to watch the movie. And they did read it as a class, and I did sit in the hallway, and I wasn't allowed to read it. And here I run a Harry Potter podcast with my wife and fell in love with her through a Harry Potter podcast, and it's one of my favorite fandoms, man. I once my mom realized, and once I convinced her, look, Mom, Gandalf is a wizard, right? And it's like, well, I mean, he's a good wizard. I don't know. Like, there was this whole craze in the United States. I don't know if maybe you guys don't remember it, but like there were moms who were like worried that this book was witchcraft. All right, it was getting kids into the dark side. All right, and once they realized what it was, everyone fell in love with it. It became acceptable, and we were allowed to read it. And I definitely, oh man, I did. I did tons of. I read the entire series at the end of high school and in the start of college, and it was fantastic. I was ready to go as the movies were releasing, and then as they were releasing the books, that was a fantastic time to be a Harry Potter fan, and yeah, grateful for that experience. So, okay, at the end of high school, we did a senior skit, and we did this big epic. We did the what was it called? The gangster rap, Star Wars gangster rap, right? It's not the east or the west side. No, it's not. It's not the north or the south side. No, it's not. It's the dark side. Love that, man. We did that. So that was like, I don't know, coming out on, I don't know. I don't think it came out on YouTube first. It was, I forget where it was, but eventually went to YouTube, and YouTube was new. And we had a buddy remix it and throw in some, I think he threw in Duel of Fates in there, and he cut it up and he edited. He had to take out some of the language, but we did it as a senior skit, some epic lightsaber battle. We got Death Star. It was, if you haven't looked it up, man, it was awesome. That was one of those things that we did at the end of high school, and I freaking loved it. So, yeah. So, anyways, I became obsessed with these fandoms, right? And I'm reading all the Legends books in Star Wars. I'm reading the Harry Potter books. I'm reading everything I can in Lord of the Rings, watching those movies. I had a buddy, Lane, who in college, I really knew him in middle school and in high school, and then in college we just became closer the longer, we kind of got to be friends. And this is what we would talk about, Lord of the Rings, all the time, and that developed into our podcast. But here we go. Switching gears, though. So in college, I actually studied to become a teacher. So I'm a teacher, and I work at the high school level. I became obsessed with flannel. All right, and I'm shocked. So many people don't know. The people who have listened to my other podcasts and stuff don't know why I became obsessed with flannel. It was my buddy Lane who actually, he noticed it, and they nicknamed me the Flannel Wizard from that podcast, and so that was really where the name came from. But I became obsessed with flannel because I would watch Smallville. And guys, if you haven't seen Smallville, again, I mentioned DC, we'll be covering some Superman, Batman, different things. My God, Smallville was awesome. Tom Welling is amazing. I love that show. My buddy Mike from when I started Rebel Watch, and Let's Look It Up with him and Matt, like we would watch Smallville all the time. I didn't have to really force him. We lived in an apartment together right out after college, and I just had him tearing through Smallville, and he absolutely loved it. But it's the flannels, man. Clark could pull off a flannel, and it looked so daggone good, and I loved his barn loft, and I just wanted my own little place to kind of go, and I don't know. Clark was always in that series searching for his one true love, and that was also me too. I always thought I was going to be married with kids at 23, 24. And anyway, so in college, I just became obsessed with Smallville and Clark Kent and flannel, and that's sort of where it all came from. And then my favorite season is fall, right? So I love fall, and I played football. I played all the sports: football, basketball, baseball. But I loved football, and then basketball leads right into basketball, which was basketball is actually my favorite sport to play. But I just man, I love that season. I love that time of year, right? So Okay, moving on. This again, just my story. You guys can click off anytime. This is just me kind of getting this out and running through this for myself and for my friends who might listen, my family. Yeah, just to kind of break it all down here. So in college, I really connected again with my co-host from Up Talking Tolkien. We were talking over just like C.S. Lewis, and Tolkien and the mysteries of the universe. We'd be out in the parking lot of the chapel. We went to Mount Vernon Nazarene University, baby. Let's go Cougars. All right. And God, we would just be, I don't know, we would just be discussing all sorts of things. I think we saw each other at some of our highest moments and some of our lowest moments there in college. And he was a good friend. And I remember then once I graduated, as things happen, you know, when you graduate and get a job, he was a year behind me. I ended up working as a teacher. God, got swamped. Absolutely got my butt kicked my first year as a teacher, and second year was insane, man. So I kind of lost touch with some friends there, and that was tough, but he was still in college finishing up his thing. And so we actually, I think it's like 6 or 8 years later when we actually start Up Talking Tolkien. Maybe not that long. Maybe not. I can't remember. I can't do the math right now. But anyways, yeah. So then I dove into Game of Thrones hard after graduation. This is April 2011, right? So I graduated in December 2010. There you go. December, had to go that extra semester. I was obsessed with Game of Thrones. I saw the first episode with my buddy Han Hung Ye, and I loved it. I was freaking out. And again, I just binged watched the whole thing, and I would watch it with my buddy Sir Thomas the Round. Shout out to him, who was he was on Bend the Knee with us for a couple episodes and did some Let's Look It Up content with me back in the day. And then later was Sir Matt the Bud Knight. We formed a podcast called Second Breakfast, which turned into Bend the Knee, Song of Ice and Fire podcast. And God, we went crazy. And I remember watching that show and just loving it. And I remember the first time I did a reaction, I was at Sir Matt's house, and we did a reaction, and we posted this video like right after HBO had dropped one of the episodes, and it was our quick, just raw after show reaction. No microphones, no nothing, just a camera and a computer, and we threw it up there. And we were clicking on it, and Matt's like, it's up to 500. And it was up to like 600, 700. We were like, oh my God, we're blowing up, you know, we're losing our minds. And it was so cool, man. That was like early days of content creation and just being stoked that things were working on YouTube and we were having fun. So that was great. But yeah, that's how I got into Game of Thrones. And actually, an interesting story on that. I was at locally here. I always mention this store. I love this local bookstore, and I think you should support your local bookstore. Mine is called Paragraphs in town, and it had moved locations, but I always would go there. And like I said, I was into Legends books. I was into the lore, and I wanted to go get the companion books and all the different things. And her name is Lois Hansen, and she was at the Paragraphs bookstore. And I'm in there at this time when Game of Thrones is like coming out in season 1, and she was sort of like, you know, explaining to me Game of Thrones, the series, what it is. I think she had read it or she knew something about it, and that's her job. She's at the store. She's the manager there, pitching me on a series. And she's also a former teacher. I never had her as a teacher in school, but she's a wonderful lady and wonderful human being. Just, I can't thank my teachers enough, and our community here has been, that's wonderful, and she's a big part of that. But so she's pitching me on Game of Thrones because the show's coming out, or it had just come out, I think, maybe. I can't remember which one it was. And then she's pitching me on Wheel of Time. Pitching me on Wheel of Time. And this was in 2000. It had to have been 2011. 2011, I believe. Or 12. I'm not sure. What right around there. And 2011, 2012. And I had to decide which. They're huge series. You know, Wheel of Time is 14 books, and the Game of Thrones is just massive. Like, which one do you do? And I was like, well, I'll read Game of Thrones, the first book, and then I'll kind of finish off the rest of season 1. I didn't watch all of season 1 with my buddy Han. I just watched the first episode with him, and I was like, oh my God, this is freaking amazing. And then I don't know how we watched it, whether there was some piracy involved or not. I can't remember. I just remember being able to get it on a computer with my buddy Tom, and we watched it, and it was fantastic. Watched the rest of the season, and so I got into this book series. Game of Thrones. I read the first book. I was like, okay, sick. That makes sense. I got the names, the faces. I was feeling it. All is good. But I'm like, when am I ever going to cover this? This Wheel of Time series seemed cooler to me. And it was like 14 books. And I was like, oh my God, it needs something. I have these long hour commutes to work. And because I had moved out of my apartment with my buddy Mike, and I had moved back home because my mom had been diagnosed with cancer. And it was stage 4 cancer, and she didn't have very long to live. And so I was like, man, I really want to, so I moved back in with her, and best decision of it was one of the best decisions of my life, and I get to spend a really good quality time with my mom before she passed away, and I'm super thankful for that. And I remember during that time, like, what we would do. Like, I would tell her about Wheel of Time. I would tell her about the story, and she really liked it. I would tell her about some of the things going on in Westeros and Game of Thrones, and she didn't need to read any of them. She didn't have time really, and that wasn't how she wanted to spend her last days. But listening to her son just I don't know, retell a story in 20 minutes, she loved it. And then she would speculate about what might happen, or she was big into story development and how who was the antagonist, or where was the author going to I don't know where was the some of the pitfalls for these characters, just different character analysis, I guess, right? And plot analysis is what we did together, and it was fun. It was fantastic. And we rewatched some of our favorite movies together, and it was just a wonderful time in my life. And it was a hard time in my life, but I remember that being like that was huge. That was huge for everything that was going to happen afterwards, in terms of me trying to find myself, trying to find my voice, and trying to find my way out of like massive depression and get back into podcasting and just navigating who I wanted to be. Like, I always thought my mom was going to meet my children and meet my wife and all these different things. So I was desperately trying to like find, my one true love, right? I was trying to find her, and I was trying to like get all these things done, and I was forcing everything, and it was just a hard time. It was crazy. But back to paragraphs, I can't thank them enough though for like putting me down these two paths of saying like, okay, you've got Game of Thrones, Westeros, or you've got Wheel of Time, right? You've got Rand and the Dragon Reborn, baby, riding on the winds of time, all right? And it was wonderful. And so that's how I kind of got into those fandoms. I got into those fandoms that way around that time, and just locked in ever since. And I needed it, actually, at the time. It was therapy. It was soothing for me to kind of get lost in those series, because life was throwing me a lot of curveballs, and a lot of things that I thought were going to go one way weren't going that way. And it just was like, I don't know. It was I felt like I was a good. I knew I was. I'm a good person doing everything right, and you just sort of wonder like, what's going on? Why is this happening? And then all that's relative. All that's relative to me and my perspective, and it's different for you. And everyone has their hardships, and people try to. I don't get into ranking hardships. You know what I mean? Everyone has their own path to walk, and that was mine. I'm just telling you some of my story, and it was hard for me at the time, and I got lost in it. I got lost in that. And the loss of my mother, and it kind of just it resulted in a lot of like I lost some friends over it. I lost I went at things for the wrong reason. I was trying to find purpose, and like I said, trying to find a wife, and trying to find purpose and just things to get into. I got into a band with a buddy of mine because my mom loved bluegrass music, and I took up the banjo because she liked Ralph Stanley, and and Foggy Mountain Breakdown, buddy. And so, like, there's things I was doing because I was missing my mom so much, and I was trying to remember her in every way that I can. God, I'm getting emotional thinking about it right now. Holy smokes. Had a good friend who told me, Denise at work had said, never, there is no timeline for grieving. And I was like, dude, thank you. Because it's just a hole that doesn't go away. It's nothing, no one can replace your mother. And now I see my son with my wife, and I'm just like, oh, Lord, have mercy. Anyway, so I'm a family man, and I just, so I will, when you listen to this podcast, you will get, you can rest assured that the tone that I take is one from a place of like, it's family safe, and it's kid friendly, and it's, again, I make a little, what do you say? Allusions to things here and there that might be a little bit naughty. Wink, wink for the adults. But I'm a teacher, and so I just like geeking out and having fun and discussing these things. So there you go. Anyways, I do get emotional sometimes on the podcast. All right, apologies. So while so how did I get into sort of the YouTube and the podcasting journey? Here it is, my friends. I started a YouTube channel called Let's Look It Up with my buddies back in the day. One of the first things we covered was actually, I think it was something with Captain America. I don't even remember. It was one of those like movies, Marvel movies, back in 2014 that was coming out, and we covered it, and it was fun. We were just covering movies, and then old movies, and we had all sorts of different podcasts on there between my buddy Mike and myself, starting Rebel Watch, and then Matt and I starting different podcasts, which eventually led to Bend the Knee. It was a crazy time, and through that, I actually had some friends come back to me. I had my good friend Tiffany O'Malley from Swish and Flick started listening to my podcast Rebel Watch, and she wanted to start a book club with her friends on Harry Potter. And it is, by the way, Swish and Flick is one of the biggest podcasts in the Harry Potter fandom. It's massive. I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of what they've accomplished. They're good people. They bring good energy into the world, and it's a project that like changed my life. She reached out to me and was sort of like, Ez, this podcasting thing. Like she told her friends, like, what if we made a podcast? My buddy Ez has made a podcast, and she convinces like her 3 other friends to do the podcasting thing. And she hits me up and she's like, can you help us start the podcast? Abso-freaking-lutely, let's go. And I started going up there and meeting with them, and we went to, I think this was in Kent, Ohio. It was Potter Fest, which turned into Wizardly World of Kent, and now it's no longer running. But it was these magical experiences where we'd go up there and have fun, and they did some graphic design, and her friends, Megan and Katie, kind of ran their own graphic design business, and it was cool. It was this really cool experience. It was 4 women running this podcast, and they did a wonderful job, and they changed people's lives. They changed my life. And they've done nothing but put good energy out there. All right. And so I kind of I helped them start that podcast. I helped them edit it. I helped them get their equipment. Hence, I brought up the Shure SM58, baby. Let's go. And the different recorders that they needed at the time, they went and got the equipment. They did it, and they set out. And I remember saying to them back when they started, and Katie on that podcast, bless her heart, House Hufflepuff, let's go, Puffs, baby. She was just like, she always brings it up. Ez said we were going to blow up. And I said it. I called it back in the day, and I was just like, I poured so much good energy into them, into that project. I wanted it to succeed. And I knew I was spreading myself too thin, and I knew that it was taking myself away from some of my other friends and other projects to kind of go up there. But it just came from a place of pure love, and I wanted nothing from them. I wanted to just literally, podcasting had started to change my life. I was having a wonderful time. I felt like people weren't listening to me at work, in my family. I felt like no one was listening. And so I thought, you know what? Why don't I just love myself? Why don't I just talk to myself? Why don't I just maybe get into this YouTube podcasting thing? And it was really just kind of a therapy thing. I wanted to just talk about the stuff that I loved, and that's what it was about. And I got to do that with a couple good buddies of mine, and it was fantastic. And I'm super, super grateful and thankful that I started all of that, because you never know where things are going to lead, right? I didn't know what was going to happen with my Rebel Watch podcast, or me and my buddy Mike, or my buddy Matt, and the different projects that would come and they would go and whatnot. I had no idea where those things were going to lead, and I still don't know what all is going to come of them and develop. And so it's just fun to see where life takes you. It's why I'm into the journeys and the adventures and the stories of these characters. Frodo Baggins didn't know when he went to Elrond's council that he didn't think he was gonna be like standing there saying like, I'll take it, I'll take the ring. Like, he just wanted to get it there, and that was it. And he couldn't see beyond the council. And so it's like we just don't ever really know where some of these decisions are going to take us and where they're going to lead us and what's going to come from them. But I have started to notice that when you put out good energy and you just try to be true and genuine, which I've struggled with. I have actually struggled with that in the past. I've wanted to people please, and I've not wanted to be myself and speak my true voice. And even with my friends, and even with my colleagues and stuff. And so I'm trying to lean into that more. But I say all that to say, when I put my energy towards Swish and Flick in that podcast, it was nothing but good. And I loved them. I loved all of them, and I thought they were wonderful people, and it was just always magical to kind of be around them. And so yeah, they asked me to guest on the podcast, and my wife ended up, hearing that. She ended up hearing that over in Berlin, Germany, and then reached out to me years later. I guessed on there when Tiffany went on maternity leave, and they needed somebody to fill in for her. And they were still kind of early on in the podcast. And I was like, sure, absolutely. And I did it, and it changed my life. And so just, again, always super grateful and really happy about, I don't know, my involvement in that project, and then just where it kind of went. And, even my involvement, like that Swish and Flick, like the motivation there, it's like I started this podcast with my buddy Mike. who we ran Rebel Watch. And like, I had no idea all the good things that were going to come from that. You know, I didn't know that my buddy Lane would be listening and be like, dude, as is podcasting, this is pretty sick. And I remember even my family would see some episodes we would post on Facebook and they would be like, hey, I don't know what the heck you're talking about, but you guys look like you're having a blast. And I'm like, that was it. That was all it was, is that we just got in that vibration of having fun and relaxing. And we had a couple IPAs. We had some IPAs, but we just enjoyed ourselves. We had a good time. And it resulted in so many good friendships and so many good conversations. Ones that I even looked back on the other day. I went and watched a couple of old episodes. It's like, God dang, we were on to something. We were cooking something up, man. No wonder people were getting motivated by us. And yeah, so thankful for that. But okay, so then that led me into all these different adventures with my buddy Sir Matt. And we started making podcast after podcast, man. We went after all the fandoms. And then I ended up leading me into a podcast with my buddy Lane. And we went and did a podcast called Up Talking Tolkien. So I'm going to go over them real quick. So we created a show called Second Breakfast. Later became Bend the Knee. And then Matt and I expanded and we did Star Wars, Hyperspace Hangout, Heroes of the Horn. We kind of went wild. And let's see. Yeah, during my time with Rebel Watch, I had another, I call him a brother from another mother. And all these guys, they're all my brothers. And I just loved, I don't know, my experience growing up. These were high school, middle school friends that just carried on into my 20s and early 30s, and we did podcasting, and it was freaking fantastic. But Lane Smith, though, helped me. He came for Star Wars Trivia Trials, which was a wonderful invention my buddy Mike came up with, and we had a couple really good runs. I'll never forget the question, and I'll ask you guys this right here. This is a trivia question for you guys. Episode 1, who says the quote, "What do you mean, naked?" I'll never forget that stump. That is stumped Lane. He just was like, "What?" He's like, "That was said in a Star Wars movie." Yes, there is a character in Episode 1 who says, "What do you mean, naked?" And I think Mike wrote that question. I was just genius, absolute genius. So, anyways, that resulted in Lane coming over there with his wife, and they did Star Wars Trivia Trials. Wonderful time. And from there, it was like, dude, this podcasting thing is so cool. Remember when we used to talk about, Tolkien and C.S. Lewis and just how much we love that we love Middle Earth, and that was back in 2018, and we made a podcast called Up Talking Tolkien, and that is one that I still do today. We're kind of finishing it up. We're kind of working towards not the end of it, but we've wrapped up a lot of our major readings of that. We're finishing up the Silmarillion, and we're covering some of the TV shows and some of the movies and things. But it's really going to be kind of a back burner show, I think, for a while, and it just depends. We call it an unexpected podcast, so we shall see. We shall see where that goes. But that's been a fun project, and we've been at that for 9 years. Okay, the fellowship was 9 members, and we've been at it for 9 years, buddy. All right. So let's see here. Around late 2019, 2020, I started to change my life. I went through all sorts of, like, again, that whole time with my friends, I was depressed. I didn't like myself. I wasn't sure who I wanted to be, and I was just like, I don't know. I wasn't getting treated well at work. I wasn't getting treated well by family, and I was like, I found myself a lot of times saying, like, dude, I would never say this to anybody. Like, when I was made fun of or talked about, like, okay, for example, flannel was one of the things I was made fun of for at work. It was insane. I remember being a teacher in, like, it's high school, and you wouldn't think that would be a thing, teachers judging everybody and saying things that they probably didn't mean anything by it, but there was just these jokes like, really? You're wearing flannel? You're wearing a flannel shirt, a tucked-in flannel with your black dress pants? I'm like, I don't know. I thought it looked pretty good. I just wanted to, I felt comfortable in it, and I remember being made fun of for that, and it was just like these things, micro things that just built up, and I realized that it was really just me, man. I was just lost, and I was trying to find friends, find fandom, and I did, man. And I got to tell you, I cannot thank every single listener and people who wrote into me and who encouraged me and followed me on social media and wanted to be friends and encouraged me and stuck with me during times where I wasn't well, I wasn't good. And it was just, I don't know, it was just a time in my life, man. It was just the season of life where it was what it was. I masked it really well. I hid it really well. And the reason I hid it so well is because the public face I put out was a guy who just loved Star Wars and was excited about it, right? And was talking about those different things, and that's all people saw, really, because that's all I would let people see. But I had a lot of healing to do and to go through, and so in late 2019 and 2020, I started to do that. I started to change my life, started taking better care of myself, my health, yeah, it was just a good time. I really started loving me. I basically detached. I said, "Hey, I'm going to stop like forcing trying to find my one true love and trying to get family. Like my other friends were like, they had their spouses and they had their families. And I remember one time I don't forget which one of them who said something like, hey, I wish I had all that extra spare time or whatever that you have. And I was like, dang, dude, I wish I had a wife. You know what I mean? I wish I had kids, man. I've always wanted that. And I was like, you can have my spare time. Give me those, give me a family. That's what I wanted. And then it started leading me down like a spiritual path of sort of like, that's kind of what we all kind of deal with that, like there's things that we want and we don't have them and we see it in other people and we get envious. And it's just this, we all have our own path to sort of walk, and the timing on that is different for everybody. And our evolution is different. And we need to spend, I think, sometimes less time focusing on each other and more time focusing on ourselves, right? And then from there, just relax. And then we can, once we're at peace and we're settled, we can then look back out at everybody else and enjoy one another. It just feels like this big cycle that we kind of go through in our 20s. And I don't know, it was, at least for me, at least that's how it was for me. And yeah, but anyways, I started to heal and I started to get better and just let things go. And as I detached and I just basically said, like, I'm not going to worry about this. I remember I got a teaching license in like 5 different states and I was ready to go. I was ready to say goodbye to everybody and just leave and peace out and just go wherever God, universe, spirit, source wanted to take me, man. I was willing to go there. And as soon as I did that, as soon as I detached and I started loving myself and healing myself, all of a sudden, man, Mrs. Kirk shows up, like out of nowhere she shows up. And I'm like, what? And then things started to get better with my podcasting life and my buddies in podcasting, and that started to improve. And I was like, okay, this is cool. There were still some things I had to work on. There's still some things that I needed to kind of, and there's still things right now that I'm working on. You guys saw me. I got the towel, buddy. I'm out there still trying to hit the gym. I'm still trying to identify differently and have a different relationship with food, man. I'm freaking stress eating and stuff. So yeah, but I that was a great time for me, and it was wonderful. I loved it, and I sort of moved into this life with my wife Lottie, and who's, as I said, from Berlin, Germany, and we met in Costa Rica. We're married 6 months later, dude. Like, it was just fast, and that was during COVID, and so it was. I can't even explain it. It was just, there's a whole story there in of itself, but changed my life forever and set me down a path of like, okay, now I have to provide for a family. I had to change things. I had to let some podcasting projects go. I had to up my salary. I had to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. When do we want to have kids, and how do I get a house, and all the different things. And it was great. I'm so happy that I am blessed and privileged that I got to do those things, and that I am where I am now. So, yeah. Oh, by the way, all of this, and it seems kind of stupid to say this, none of this is to like feel sorry for Ez or whatever. This is just to get to know me. Okay. This is just so you know who the Flannel Wizard is, who you're dealing with. All right. And, most people won't click on this this welcome episode, and that's fine. They'll get to know me along the way, because I can't help but share who I am and what I believe in, and who I don't know, just even in fandom, like it just comes out in the characters that I love and how I connect them to life. I know when I'm teaching sometimes to kids, and I co-teach in English with some great English teachers, we often talk about like self-to-text connection and how that really can bring an understanding of the author and understanding of the source material. And I do that with film. You do that with film and TV shows and whatever the books might be. Is I always try to connect myself to the text, and it just helps me remember it better. It helps me kind of like sink in and immerse into the world. So anyways, through all of that, you'll get to know quite a bit about Sir Ezra here, the Flannel Wizard, and yeah, it's great. Anyways, okay, moving on. I think that's it. Is that it? Yeah. So basically, yeah, I kind of went through that phase in from like 2021 to like present time, where I've just been sort of working on my life, and I had to stop some of the podcasting projects, and I wasn't able to really focus and bring a show back to life. And I wasn't even sure I was going to. I had tried before, and it didn't work. I had tried to like niche down and be specific to this and do what the algorithm wants me to do, and do what like everyone recommends you do. And I'm like, I can't do that anymore, man. I just got to do what I think is fun, and I got to cover the topics that I want to cover because I love them so much, man. Yeah, it's like I'm going to Star Wars Celebration with one of my old buddies Mike from Rebel Watch. He's gonna be. It's just like stuff like that. I'm going back to conventions. I went to Leavesden Studios and I did a tour with my wife for Harry Potter. We got married in Edinburgh because freaking why not? It's we fell in love through a Harry Potter podcast and we love Scotland and it was magical, man. So like so many things. It's just ingrained in who I am. I love these fandoms. I love these authors and I just I don't know. I enjoy making content about these things, and I'm open to other fandoms. I love getting carried away in this in sci-fi and fantasy. It's been a part of my upbringing, and it's just it's fulfilling for me. So, okay, that's about an hour. Holy smokes, man! I did not think I was going to rant and rave and go that long. Thank God I got me a little little Dunkin'. Ooh, all right. Appreciate you guys and anyone who stuck around and listened to the whole story. Honestly, thanks. And if I'm not your cup of tea, no problem. Please go find another. But there's so many different podcasts. I could give you recommendations. That for sure. You can send me an email and I can recommend a ton of different podcasts and projects and YouTube content creators that maybe have what it is you're looking for. But if you're down just to chill and to just be a part of the Flannel Council and to chat about these things in a fun, positive way, I hear in a lot of a lot of these other YouTube channels, and it's easy to get drug into the negative weeds, right? I try not to. I am definitely trying not to. I want to focus on more positive things because I've just found that like when I get all angry myself and I get angry at a TV show or whatever, my week sucks. It ends up kind of sucking because it's like when I care too much about the Buckeyes losing and I'm like, now I'm gonna have a bad week. It's like, no, dude, like who cares? You got to detach from that stuff and you have to just take the good where the good's at, and we have to kind of have a different I don't know, like a different weight applied to these shows or these movies or whatever in our life. And I get it though, as a youngster, man, I was diehard, I was locked in, and I was wanting these shows to. I got so involved in like theorizing and stuff that I was like, if it's not this way, I'm going to be pissed. And I'm like, okay, you can't do that anymore, dude. Like, if you are still doing that, there are those shows. You can go find them. That's totally fine. Sir Ezra, the Flannel Wizard here, is probably not going to do that. There is a show or two. There are some things that do irritate me. I do go on a couple rants, but they're respectful. They're just things that I hope when the people hear them, they could make some improvements. And if there's missteps, I always think like, if you make a misstep and you fumble, own it, dude. Just own it and roll with it and keep going, and we'll respect you for that and just keep doing your thing. Because cinema and TV production, these all this different stuff, books, whatever, authors, things have changed. Times have changed, and they're changing, and they're trying to be sensitive to those things. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And I'm not really a critic. I might be critical. I might criticize. I might rank stuff. I might say this thing's better than that thing, or whatever. But a lot of times, I'm more involved in the story, in the plot, in the canon, in the lore, and keeping that sort of data bank going in my mind, and looking at plot holes and looking at theories and fun things to explore that are more about the story and plot. I care less about some of the, I don't know, like the drama with the actors or the directors or whatever. When they're cool and things are awesome and they have cool stories and I hear them, I'm down. But like, I don't know a lot of actors and directors and stuff. I don't know all their names. And it's not because I don't want to. It's just like I dive into the books. This is more of a book-oriented podcast where I know the author's name of the book, and I am definitely diving into their story. And then these guys who are adapting it, there's just so many people involved with those projects that sometimes I'm like, I'm trying to keep track of all the Targaryens and House of the Dragon, daggone it. And, I'm trying to keep track of all the elves in the first stage of Lord of the Rings. It's too much. It is too much sometimes. And so, yeah, I have to, I got a big head, but it ain't that big. And I'm trying to shrink it. All right. So anyway, just having fun. All right. And that's what the show's about. It's about having fun, and it's just about enjoying our time in these fandoms. And yeah, man, I look forward to stuff like Celebration and Comic-Con, and I'm even doing an Obi-Wan cosplay. I'm still working on my R2-D2 droid. I have the dome, not ordered, but I've got it picked out. So I've got the dome ready to go. I am a part of the Droid Builders Club. So there's just, there's so many other things that we can kind of focus on and put our attention to that I think will really make this a fun experience. And I'll leave you with this. This is the final thing. One of my favorite quotes from Star Wars is from Qui-Gon Jinn. He's leaning down. He's talking to Anakin Skywalker, in episode 1, and he says, remember, your focus determines your reality. And I just will leave you thinking about that, okay? So our focus on these fandoms and what we want to focus on and what I'm going to be focused on, that's why I told you that. I'm less focused on, I'm going to try to keep it positive as much as I can. I'll let my ranting for Rings of Power be done on Up Talking Tolkien, if you will. I really, even there, I've kind of like, I don't really want to rant anymore. I don't really want to go into that negative energy as often as I maybe have recently. And so your focus determines your reality. When I shifted my focus to change my life back in 2019, 2020, it was huge. I didn't even know I was doing it. And I had just taken my focus off of different people that I was really obsessing over like those relationships, and I let go. I let go of them, and I just believed that I could find. I remember I said to my buddy Lane, or whoever it was somewhere recorded, that I didn't care if I found Mrs. Kirk when I was, at the time, I guess I was like, when I'm 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 75, this lifetime or the next lifetime. And I just sort of let it go, and I stopped focusing on it, and then boom, I attracted it. It came right into my life. And I think about that quote a lot. It's in my bio. Your focus determines your reality. And that's what I try to do. I try to really focus on good things that will determine my reality. I think when you look at like Anakin and what he focused on, Anakin later on in that story, in the prequel era, he focuses on what the Jedi Masters were holding back from him. Not what Master Yoda had taught him, but what Master Yoda did not teach him. And by the way, find me a book where Master Yoda actually withheld training from Anakin. He maybe did, but if he did, he might have just said, now's not the time, or like in time I will teach you that. But Anakin wanted it now. And again, I don't think Yoda ever said like, no, I'm not going to train you in that because that's only a me thing. Only Grand Master Yoda can know that, not you, Anakin. But Anakin was focused on the things that they were on the negative aspects of the council, right? He was focused on the fact that they didn't save his mom, right? And that she wasn't saved and stuff like that from them, and she was still in slavery and things. He just his focus determined his reality. His focus and where he put his attention on. He was, not that he wasn't ever grateful for their teachings and stuff. He was. He would say that. He would say that to Padme, right? Oftentimes, but in terms of who he trusted, where his focus was, it ended up being negative, and it was on bad things, and it was on things that were like wrongs that were done to him. And so you're saying, oh, it was Anakin's fault. No, there are other also traumas and tragedies and things he was born into life with. And, you could say, well, was it the system that let him down? Was it the Jedi that let him down? You could find every excuse that you want for why Anakin fell to the dark side, right? But if you're Anakin, I think in the end, he sort of realizes it's my choice. I have a choice to come back to the light. I could have stayed dark, you know what I mean? But he chose to come back to the light. And the only one who could do that was him. And so it's just giving you sort of your agency back and saying that you have a choice to determine your reality by what you focus on. And it's not just, I'm going to focus, I have a goal. And in this goal, here's where I'm striving towards this. I get it, Sir Ezra, you got to focus on that. And boom, that's going to take me to where I want to go because I want to, I don't know, get a promotion, I want to buy a house or whatever. I'm going to focus on those things, and therefore I'm going to bring those into my life. Yeah, that's the obvious one, but it's working every day. Every day, what you're sort of focusing on is determining your day in, day out. And I would just encourage you to keep that in mind because it's one of the most profound quotes from Star Wars. It's one of the greatest lessons I think it ever gave us, which is just very simple. Qui-Gon Jinn, who is a master of the living force and is really grounded, and he's in the present moment. He tells Obi-Wan to not center on his anxieties, to keep his mind in the present, the here and now, right? And it's balance. It's also balance because then Qui-Gon or Obi-Wan would bring up Yoda's perspective, which is to be mindful of the future and how these events here in the present will affect the future and all those different things. But I just love how grounded Qui-Gon is and how in the moment he is and how your focus right now, what you're focusing on, is going to draw you into a reality. And what reality do you want that to be? And it can be, and it really, when you start to analyze what you're focusing on, that is super important for you. So that's what I want to leave you with, that final message there. Those are the things I'm going to be diving into, the quotes, the characters, and just analyzing these series and breaking down the TV shows and just having fun, man. Going live, reading your transmissions. Back to, if you've listened to any of my other projects, it will be similar to those projects. Just me with some guests here and there when they want to come in. And I'm going to be bringing it to you on a weekly basis, man. I'm excited to do it every Saturday. If I can't, I'll definitely announce it to you guys because, you know, I'm a dad now and I do have other responsibilities and things. But for the most part, I'm excited. I have so many of these shows lined up that I want to record that I told my wife, I'm like, I might be recording 2 episodes a Saturday. You know what I mean? And just breaking down. There's sometimes so much news that I'm like, I can't cover the 20 stories in Star Wars this week. I'm going to do 5 of them this week and 5 next week, which means I might record 2 times on a Saturday and then, you know, have double drops and stuff. So I'm excited because there's so many things that we can discuss and we can collaborate on and kind of create like a community here and just a place where everyone's welcome and everyone's welcome to share their thoughts. And you don't have to worry. There's no gatekeeping, I guess, if you will. And if I ever talk over your head or you're like, Sir Ezra's talking about something that I don't really quite understand or whatever, it's not intentional. It's just where I am in terms of what I know and understand. And I try to break that down and make that relatable. And so some of you who are really deep in the lore might love that. And some of you who aren't are going to be like, what the heck? And so then sometimes I reverse it. And I'm like, I remember like, okay, yeah, think of like a 12-year-old me who wants this explained and wants everything sort of really parsed out. That might annoy somebody who's like a deep, sweaty lore master who wants to get into the weeds on these things and they want to get right into the names and dropping names. I'm a teacher. I have the spirit of a teacher, and so I do think of the 12-year-olds. I actually, one of the reasons I did Rebel Watch back in the day was because I had some students who were debating over some canon events, and they were talking about the timeline of Star Wars, and they had it all freaking backwards, and I was like, fellas, hold on a second. I don't normally get involved in your guys' personal conversations in the last 5 minutes here before the bell rings, but this is right, this is wrong, let's move this over here, and this is exactly what it is. And they were dumbfounded that I knew anything about Star Wars. And I remember going like, yeah, okay, from their perspective, like this is all new to them. And I was like, I could actually teach this. I could share some of this knowledge. So as we go into the shows, if you hear me kind of like, if it seems like it's simple terminology, I often think about my wife or my buddies and their wives and like what they know about the show and what they don't know and how I want to explain that to them and bring them in and bring them along. I don't want to talk over anybody's head. I don't want to gatekeep. So there will be that to bear in mind as we move forward in those episodes. So I don't know. Did I miss anything? Is there other things I wanted to say? Who freaking knows? I feel like I could talk forever, guys. I'm just in the feels right now, and I'm so excited to start this project. I'm so excited to meet some of you who are brand new. If you've never heard any of my shows and this is brand new, hit me up and follow me over on Instagram. I think it's the Flannel Wizard 77 there. And I've got a YouTube page, like I said. I'm mainly on Instagram for like communication with people. I have a TikTok. I don't really communicate a lot on there. Like I said, Instagram is probably where I do DMs, and then really Gmail. If you want to get a hold of me, Gmail is probably the best spot. The DMs sometimes as they come in, I can't always get to all of them, or they get lost. They get stuck in a folder that I can't see, and I'm like, what the heck? But if you hit the Gmail up, definitely that would definitely get you into me, and I'll be able to talk with you and converse, and we can kind of go from there. So. All right, friends. Appreciate you guys. Hopefully, again, moving forward, just the schedule going forward, we're going to do House of the Dragon Season 1 recap, House of the Dragon Season 2 recap, and then we're going to go episode by episode for House of the Dragon Season 3. And again, all along the way, we're going to be covering our various fandoms, having fun with that, covering the news, and our Friday live streams, where we're going to be tackling various topics. You guys who email me and stuff, I'm definitely willing to take some of your emails and incorporate those into those Friday live streams and bring to you guys some really cool stuff. I have visuals, PDFs. I have a PDF builder that is really helpful and is making some freaking sick PDFs, which you guys will see in the next episode, and they'll be on the video version here too. So, all right, appreciate you guys. We'll catch you next time, and as always, remember, your focus determines your reality. May the Force be with you, and winter is coming. And Frodo lives. And don't let the Muggles get you down. We'll come up with an outro later. All right. Peace.